Join me as we embark on Black Culture Trek 2024, celebrating the profound influence of African American and Black culture in Paris, Brussels, and London from September 21st through 27th, 2024. Immerse yourself in rich history, savor exquisite cuisine, and explore hidden gems guided by local experts. This transformative journey promises a unique blend of culture, heritage, and self-discovery, offering an unparalleled opportunity to make history together. Don't miss out. Go to www.yourbestlifeabroad.com/Black Culture Trek registration to register now for an unforgettable experience. Now, on to the podcast. Okay, so hello everyone. I am Dr. Raquel, and thank you so much for joining us on Best Life Abroad, Not Your Average Travel Podcast. So today we will be speaking with Sunya, who has relocated to Mexico, and she is going to be talking to us about her experiences, sharing her insights, and all the tips on how you can make the decision for yourself to move abroad. So thank you so much, Sunya, for joining us today.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you.
I'm so excited to have you. So yes. So first, if you can just share with us kind of what motivated you, like you're living in the US, living your best life, and then you're like, actually, I can live a different best life abroad. So what motivated you to make that decision to go abroad?
Well, for me, it was not an immediate decision because I've been thinking about it for over 30 years. And about 30 years ago, a colleague of mine and I were fairly recent divorced and single moms, and we decided that we were going to practice social work in London. But just because of the everyday demands of trying to run our practices, take care of our children, do what we needed to do, keep food on the table. I mean, we just at that time just did not have the energy to take on another whole learning endeavor. We figured we probably could, probably do something maybe with the State Department or find some ways to integrate, but we didn't have any entries or any inroads into that particular movement at that time. And then we just kind of got caught up in just living our lives with our children. We were just dealing with some things in our own professional careers because of the stance that we had taken about racism. So we found ourselves shortly after that kind of blackballed from traditional work. So we had to, at that point in time, really start focusing on building our businesses, and that really took up our energy. And then, of course, life happened. My friend got breast cancer. Her mother got sick. Her mother died. I began to take care of my children. Just life. So after my mother had passed away, after my youngest daughter finished grad school and she was starting her career, I saw that little window of opportunity and I took it. Yeah, so I had been thinking about it for a while. And what happened for me was I actually came to Mexico on an artist residency. In addition to being a clinician, I am a textile and designer and artist, and I was here to take some time out just to kind of refocus and spend some time working on a project. And I just fell in love with where I was and decided I came from June to August to Chapala, Mexico. And before I left here in August, I had an apartment, and I moved here in December.
Love it. You said, yes, this is it. We're not playing these games.
Right.
Awesome. Yay. And so as a lot of people who listen to this podcast are interested in moving abroad, but still kind of dabbling with the idea. So for those who are still on the fence about, can I actually make this a real thing and make this happen? What advice would you give to them? And even maybe first steps on how to get the process started and how to best prepare for the move.
I think the first thing really is to take a trip. That's the first thing. It's one thing to intellectualize about something, kind of think, well, but you're not going to be able to get the information you need through the eyes of someone else.
Mm-hmm.
You can get some general pointers, of course, as you know, but you really have to have your feet on the ground. And I think once your feet are on the ground, then all sorts of things open up for you because you are actually in context. I would also say that you probably are not going to need as much money as you think to make that move. However, it is important to find a way to set aside some time for an extended break. And what I mean by an extended break is if you're a person who normally takes a 2 week vacation, then take 4. If you are accustomed to taking a month off of work, then take 2. I feel it's really important that you allow yourself enough time to unhook from your typical routine to really get a sense of what the new environment and experience would feel like. And also on this USA platform, we are all on to some degree, some kind of rat race or maze because that's American culture. It's the global capitalist culture that we are all victimized by. So to be able to unhook from that and to feel a different rhythm, I think is really, really important. But you have to get your feet on the ground. So I would say the first step really is just to take an extended break. Put your finger on the map, choose where you want to go, save up or whatever you have to do, skip whatever bill you have to pay, maybe one bill, but not two.
Mm-hmm.
And get your feet on the ground, have the experience and consider it part of getting some of the rest that you need so that you can make a good informed decision. And I think once you make that first trip and you see how it works out, then it'll be easier for you to envision the second step.
I love that advice. I love, love, love that advice. And I think this may be the first time that we're hearing that advice. But I think that advice is so important because it allows you to really visualize yourself in a place. Also,
Exactly.
I think sometimes it's like, well, I love this place as a tourist. And then you see people who move there and they're like, this was the worst experience I ever had. And I'm like,
Mhm.
as a tourist, is a very different experience than
Yes,
a person who has to eat and go to the grocery store and speak a language and, all the things.
that's
Um,
right.
and then also disrupting that normal is super important because, like you said, I think one of the reasons why I created Best Life Abroad is because so often people were like, oh, I wish I could move abroad. It's so amazing that you lived abroad. And I'm like, yeah, anybody can do this. But part of it is actually making a decision to make it happen. But the other part of that is really thinking that it's something that is realistic. And so I think so
Hmm.
often people are like, oh, it sounds so amazing, but don't really all the way fully believe that it's realistic. But once you disrupt it for a little bit, then you're like, wow, this is something that actually I don't have to be stressed all the time. I don't have to
Right,
be worried about being a Black person all the time. I don't have
right.
to be worried about my safety all the time. And just being able to remove some of that mental load in spaces, that is just so powerful. And once you get like a little taste of that, then you can really see how it could continue. So I love that advice. I really love
Absolutely.
it. Yeah.
And I think the other thing that's really exciting to me is I'm in a I'm in a growing community of Black women. And, husbands are starting to come now, grandchildren are coming through. One of my daughters has come to visit. She's, the other one is trying to get herself in a position to where she can come with her son. Um, but we have a really growing community here. There have been some women here that have been here for 19 years,
Wow.
and they are really excited to see more people coming. And uh, what's exciting for me about that is seeing what the future can be. There are a number of women here in their 70s and in their 80s, and they look fabulous
Mm-hmm.
because they're living a different life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, um, so, so for me, the decision to move abroad also is about maintaining some longevity and health,
Mm-hmm.
as well as removing myself from a certain degree of stress, taking myself out of that rat race so that I
Mm-hmm.
could hear myself think. But I have to say, I've been here for 2 years now, and every day I just see how I'm, I'm still letting go of different layers of burnout. I am still recovering from United States burnout.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
every time I come home, I go to the US, fairly often. I have been going fairly often. I'm going to be going less often now. Um, but it takes me a few days to decompress.
Mm-hmm.
And in talking to other people, it's a very common experience. So now when I come back from the US, because I just got back here on Saturday, I allow myself the next day to stay in bed all day if I need to. And then the day after that, if, but it takes me 2 or 3 days to get to where I'm feeling I'm ready to engage again.
Wow, that's really powerful. For sure. And you touched on it some, just when you said, like, you got there and then you found your place to stay and even the
Hmm.
importance of your health. Can you talk to us a little bit about, so some of the largest questions for people who are interested in moving abroad are, how will I get income? Where will I live? What will I have? How will I secure health insurance, or health care? Can you talk to us a little bit about kind of that for you?
I would say, if you're under 65 and you don't have your retirement in place, and let me also say, a lot of people at 65 don't have their retirement in place. I just want to say that. Um, I think the best strategy is to have some sort of business that's going to bring you some residual income. And you have time now as you're planning to kind of get that in place. I
Mm,
also suggest that it be a home-based business that you can do digitally online. Maybe you'll take a year or two to build that business, um, so that you have some extra money coming in. Um, right now, digital nomads are very important and prevalent. We don't know how long that's going to be able to last. But if you can begin to start thinking about, what skill do I have? What product can I offer? What can I make? How can I begin to put those networks in place so that you have some income coming in? I made made a decision early on not to derive my income from the Mexican economy. Um, there is a lot of poverty in Mexico. There are tremendous wealth gaps in Mexico as there are in other places. So I came here knowing I did not want to take away a job from a Mexican national because they need that money. So I have built a business, which does give me additional income. I was at 65 without a retirement nest egg. I didn't have it. Um, I mean, I didn't. So in addition to the Social Security that I have, which I must say it's part-time Social Security because I made the decision. My youngest child is 29 now. I made the decision 29 years ago to work part-time, um, knowing that when it came at retirement time, I would have part-time retirement income, but I was not willing to trade all of my time for dollars.
mhm,
I made that decision early, early on. Um, there were a lot of sacrifices that we made. There were honestly times when we didn't have lights. We didn't have, I mean,
mhm,
it was a struggle, but my time freedom has
mhm,
always been more important to me than some of those conveniences. And I just had to tell my daughters, look, we're going to suck it up, because I'm not willing to trade all my time for dollars like that.
mhm,
So, So I do have part-time income, but I was able to make, fairly good money as a therapist. And I have some residual income coming in. So that's how I've done it. And I am continuing to build my business. I'm continuing to build it.
Mhm.
I have no intention of traditional retirement. I love what I do. So until the day that I can no longer do it, I'll continue to do my work. Um, but it doesn't feel like work because I love it so much. So I would say find something that you love. Also take advantage of the tax advantages that come with a home-based business. We lose a lot of money when we are not understanding the tax code. I am a master at understanding the US tax code, and I have worked it to my advantage. Every one of my trips abroad is a tax write-off. I maintain the studio here in my home. That's a tax write-off because I still, pay taxes to North Carolina and to the United States.
Mhm.
But I'm smart about it, and that's what I would encourage women and families to do. I also think that every Black woman needs to have a business because of the tax advantages. If you don't have a business, that tax code will beat you to death.
Mm.
So, there are ways that you can survive and thrive, but we just have to be knowledgeable and smart about it.
Awesome. And in terms of you finding your place to live, how did you go about finding that?
It was because I had my feet on the ground, and it was a very serendipitous thing, spiritual thing, I think. As I said, I was here on an artist residency, and there's a community of artists here where I am in Chapala, Mexico. There's a lot of artists and writers who come here. It's kind of like a spot. That's how I came. And in networking, I had lunch, I had breakfast one day with a woman who is a very established fiber artist. She's created a number of, she created the whole oil paint stick industry. If you're a textile artist, you know what that means. And I had breakfast with her one day, and I said, I have your books on my shelf. I didn't even realize who I was talking to.
Wow.
And I said, well, would you mind letting me see your studio? She said, I would love for you to see my studio.
My
So we
goodness.
had like a 2 hour breakfast, which is common in Mexico. And then we went to her house and we talked for 3 or 4 more hours. And then the next day she said, I was thinking about our meeting and we have a space open in our house. And I think, we're looking to create an intentional community. And I think you would be perfect for our home.
Wow.
So, I mean, that's how it happened. And so I live in a refurbished boutique hotel. There are 4 suites here in the home, very spacious suites that we have. We have our own private space. Um, we have 3 floors here in this building. There's a kitchen on every floor. There's 2 suites on every floor, so we share a kitchen. And then on the top level, we have a chef's kitchen, living room, common living room area, and a huge dining area. But there's only 4 of us in the building, and because all of us are artists in the building, we are traveling in and out. So there are times when I'm the only person in the building.
Wow.
Sometimes, like right now there are 3 of us in the building, but one of us has been gone for 18 months. One of the ladies upstairs is a world famous sculptor, so she's getting ready to go on tour with her artwork. She's got tours. She just came back from London. Um, she's got shows in the US and she's got a show in Mexico City. So she'll be out for months at a time. The other one is in Peru right now, attending a weaving class. So we are in and out all
Mhm.
the time, but we're a global community. And it just came to me at the perfect place and the perfect time.
Yeah, that's amazing. That is really amazing. And then tell us about healthcare where you are in Mexico.
Um, Healthcare is amazing. The, uh, the buildings here are old. These are old communities that they have not torn down their history. So there's constant building, rebuilding, patching. There's a lot of cement and stucco. So the buildings look old on the outside, but you step into some of these places, you never know what you're going to find. These are state-of-the-art facilities.
Mm.
And as we know, Mexico is very famous for medical tourism. I have a Medicare plan that allows me to be seen here at a medical practice. I also have selected a medical practice for myself. So for routine medical care, I don't use my Medicare. I use my local provider. It's usually 200 pesos per visit. I have to pay for any lab work out of pocket. Um, but 250 pesos is the equivalent of about $10, $15 for a visit, doctor's visit. So that's what I use. Um, for medical emergencies, they will accept my Medicare insurance for admission here. Um, and I do keep it in case I have any medical emergencies in the U.S. But I'm in good health, praise God, which is also very important. And so I'm able to use the facilities here without a problem.
That's great. What do you think are some of the greatest misconceptions about living abroad? And maybe even particularly in Mexico.
Well, I think probably the greatest misconception is that we can't do it or that it's really hard to do. That's number one.
Mm-hmm.
And that you have to have millions of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
You want to have a safety net, and that's relative. For some people, $500 may be a safety net. For some, it may be $50,000 as a safety net.
Mm-hmm.
It's depending on who you are and your circumstances. Um, I think the biggest misconception is that we're just inundated with crime all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And people are always saying, well, what about the cartels? And I say, well, what about the mafia?
Mm-hmm.
What about the mafia, which is in your town right now,
Mm-hmm.
which controls all the organized crime? And I say, if you don't have business with the cartel really doesn't have any business with you. Um, I really feel a lot safer here. I'm not going to say there's no crime because there's crime everywhere. There are desperate people everywhere. You have to use common sense, and you know you can't walk around town with dripping in diamonds and jewels because you look crazy and vulnerable. Um, but the police are not interested in me. The
Mm-hmm.
police are not looking for me here. Um, when I see them with their AK-47s and you know, their automatic weapons, I don't have that same thing. It doesn't that deep thing that I get when I see the blue lights does not bother me here.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm leaving the bank and they are standing outside, they will greet me or they'll say, can I help you with anything? They speak. Um, that's not to say that there isn't a lot of crime in a lot of the really, really poor communities because people are desperate. And so, yes, people deal drugs. People are involved in kidnapping. People are involved in terrible things, just like they are in the United States. Desperate people do desperate things.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not in my face all the time. And just for frame of reference, um, I recently came back from Chicago, and uh, I was in Charlotte late August, and I heard about a shooting every day. I heard about murders. I can't even keep track of how many murders. I've been here for 2 years, and I have heard of 3 murders within a 100-mile radius of where I am. So that's just to put things in perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Murders do happen. Things do happen. I think there was an assassination in one of the communities maybe 3 or 4 days ago. Um, but that would be maybe four murders that I've heard about in the last 2.5 years.
Hmm. Yeah, very culturally different for sure.
Hmm.
Think about your overall experience from like start to finish. We're packing up, we're getting visas, we are moving abroad. Are there any things that you think you would have done differently?
No, no. I would say the part that I didn't prepare for and couldn't prepare for was the letting go of so many mementos,
Mm,
personal things. You can't, when you are moving abroad, you really, I mean, there are people who actually pack up their whole household and move here, but in context, it doesn't make sense because it just doesn't make sense. And I see people with these whole houses full of furniture and stuff, but it's like most people in the world don't live like that. Like we live in the United States. So it looks out of place here, number one. But number two, when you are closing one door and opening another, I think it's important not to bring all your old stuff with you because when you're coming into a new place, anytime you're entering a new portal, a new window, a new opportunity, that new opportunity is going to bring its own blessings and its own things. So if you've cluttered it up with all of your old stuff, you're limiting what your new life will bring you. So for me, I'll be honest, it's taken me 2 years. I think I have now everything in a 10 by 10 storage space. My goal is to cut that in half by next year. But I'm down to the bare basics of what is important to me. And that those are mainly photographs and some family things. Um, but I got rid of a lot of stuff. I moved from a studio of almost 1,000 square feet down to I have a studio here in Mexico, which is probably maybe 300 square feet. Um, but sorting through all that, oh, that was hard. I mean, mm, that was hard. I cried a lot.
mhm,
And that's a typical experience because you're really sorting through your entire life when you make a move like this.
sure.
You have to really come to terms with what's really important and what do you need to leave behind and give away.
Yeah, I think too, what you mentioned earlier about kind of getting your feet on the ground is helpful too, because oftentimes people are like, well, I need this soap, I need this toothpaste, and it's like they might have that where you're going.
Right.
Let's find out first.
I think that's a good one too. That's a really good one because um yeah, that's a misconception too that you're not going to have modern civilization.
Mhm.
Um, and you may have, your local your local things may not have all the name brand things that you are accustomed to, but then again, they might. And in all the major cities, you're going to have everything that you're accustomed to having at home. Every single thing, even down to some of the chain restaurants and stores. You're going to have, we're not, Mexico is third world in some ways, but the United States is third world in some ways.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, but everything that you ever wanted, there may be a few items like there's a Trader Joe's um, ginger candy that I like, and there's a certain oil that I like. Um, I do get my braiding hair from the U.S., but you can buy braiding hair here too. Um, so I think that's a really good point. Health food stores, naturopathic products. I mean, this is the center for people who practice spirituality and who use nature, non-organic. products. I mean, it's prevalent here, and also non-GMO foods. You know,
Mm,
our foods are not chemically altered here.
hmm. Yeah, and I think that's the important part too, is the open-mindedness that it takes with a move anywhere, but particularly abroad, because they
Hmm.
might not even have the same things that you have, but what they have might be better. So if you're not
Yes,
open to
absolutely.
that, you'll never know what that difference is.
Yes.
What do you think has been the biggest adjustment for you going from living in the US to living in Mexico?
The switching from grind culture to rest culture.
Hmm. And how has that transition been? So has it been more like I have to set parameters for myself? I have to mentally prepare. I know you mentioned like taking that time mentally to recharge. What does that look like for you?
Um, I think so. The hardest thing that I'm working on, even as we speak right now, is cutting off my workday at a certain time
Mm.
because people are socializing here. You know, people are socializing. They're out in the street dancing, or they're socializing at the bar, or they're at someone's home, or they're at I mean, people are not working all the time here. So and I could easily be working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week because I have my own business. So, making sure that I'm not on work mode, that I
Mhm.
actually turn off the clock, shut down the computer, and hang out,
Mhm.
which I just really could not do in Charlotte unless I really put it on the calendar. I mean, it's a big deal. Well, let me see what time. Let me check my calendar. Let me check your. It's. I mean, it's just to be able to just hang out. Let's meet tonight at 5 o'clock. Well, let me. It's
Mhm.
not that easy. But here, that's the expectation.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I've had one of my friends is moving here, um, and she said she's gone back because she's actually going to be moving actually right across the street from me in December. So she's going back home to kind of do some final stuff. But she said, I have lived more in the last 2 days than I have in the last 21 years.
Wow.
And my friend Donna, who has been gone for 18 months because she had some medical things to do, we both flew back on Saturday and we met in Houston and came here. And she said, Sunya, in the last 18, she said, Sunya, in the last day and a half, I have lived more than I have in the last 25 years.
Wow. Yes, that is huge. I think that is what is so important. What is the cost of not taking the leap? That
Right.
is the part that is so, so, so important. So, wow, I really appreciate you sharing that. So, one final question for you. So, how has living abroad changed your perspective on life, race, culture, and what advice would you give someone who's still on the fence?
Oh, I'd say make that leap, get off the fence. Get off the fence because you're not gonna be able to, you're not gonna make any decisions on the fence.
Mm,
Get off the fence and you can decide whether it's a yay or nay. That's the simple part. Um, I am more committed than ever to creating safe spaces for Black women. Anti-Blackness is a global sickness. It certainly is. It's an issue in Mexico here in places. However, for the most part here, I have really felt celebrated and appreciated. Um, People have just embraced us with open arms. People will look at us and call us family here. Um, and there are not a lot of Afro Mexicans in this particular community that I'm in, but when people come through, they'll 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 grab me and embrace me, and they'll say, our skin, we're the same."
mm,
But even the indigenous Mexicans that are here are very loving and embracing. The men give us a lot of attention. which is kind of, it's kind of fun.
Mhm.
Um, but white supremacy is a global threat. It's a global threat to everyone. And I've been many places abroad. I see it everywhere. So I'm more committed than ever to providing safe spaces for Black women and setting aside a certain part of my practice to address our needs because we need healing spaces. We're doing a retreat here in January called Jumpstart Your Soul Journey, and it is for us for the participants to really examine their relationship with work, to understand the importance of rest and respite. And it's also for people who are on the fence to kind of get a sense of what this part of Mexico was like. So we're bringing in professionals
Yes.
to tell them about this part of Mexico. We're bringing in someone from the medical industry, from banking, um, public safety, education, the funeral industry. Um, we're going on some amazing excursions. We've got someone from real estate coming in so that people can really have a sense of here is one place. We're having a residency workshop too. So here's one place where you can get all of your answers answered. You don't have to do a whole lot of running around. We've got a concierge service available for people that have questions about this part of the country. But I think it's really important that we do that for ourselves
Mhm.
and that we promote and support each other.
Love it. I love it so much. That is so great. Oh, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for asking me to be on here, and shout out to Margaret Scurry for putting us together.
Yes, yes, for sure. For sure. I'm so happy that we connected. So thank you. It was so great to hear about your journey abroad. And if anyone listening is interested in moving abroad and needs some help taking the leap, I am here to support you on your personal journey. So please head to my website, www.yourbestlifeabroad.com, for information on how to turn your dream of moving abroad into a reality. So thank you again for joining us. And just a reminder, there is no time like the present to live your best life abroad. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.